Welcome to another episode of Synthpop Reviews. This episode is the first in another series that I'll be doing just every once in a while, hopefully at least once a month. And I'm thinking of calling it What I'm Listening to This Month. I find that with my listening habits, what I tend to do is I'm constantly almost buying new synthpop, new wave music to listen to, but I also regularly go back and listen to music that's in my collection. And so I want to start a new series in which I'll just tell you what I'm listening to this month that I think will give you a sense of some of the newer music that I'm enjoying in this genre of music, but also hearkening back to some of the classics, at least what I think are classics. So let's get started. What I'm listening to this month, I got the most recent album by OMD. It's called Bauhaus Staircase, and I'm listening to that. I've really enjoyed it, and it's one of my favorite albums of 2023. So here in January of 2024, I'm still enjoying that. It's got some ups and downs in it, I think, but there are several songs that are becoming some of my favorite OMD songs. So that's in my rotation. The Killers compilation called Rebel Diamonds. I'm still listening to that and really enjoying it. Hopefully you listened to my recent review of that album. I also, just for Christmas, got Duran Duran's most recent album, Dance Macabre. I'm probably mispronouncing that. And I haven't had a lot of time lately, so I haven't dived into that yet, but I'm planning to listen to that this month as well. So those three albums, those are the newer releases that I'm listening to this month. But I also picked up an album by Color Theory. Color Theory has been a favorite of mine over the years. Sometimes I take a break from Color Theory and then I come back and I find wonderful music and listen to it for a long time. And then I take a break again sometimes. But Color Theory recently had a little bit of a sale on their website, and I picked up the album The Majesty of Our Broken Past. I had heard several of these songs in the past. I have been a Patreon supporter of Color Theory off and on over the years, and so I had some of these songs already, but not in album form, not the whole album. And so I picked it up, and I'm really liking it. There's several songs on there that really stand out to me. Some of the classics that I'm going back to, I mean, you may not call these classics, but I certainly do. The Silencers. The Silencers are a band that I think is overlooked way too much. They produced so many good songs. I love their best of collection, Blood and Rain, the singles. I guess it's a singles collection, not necessarily a best of, but it's wonderful. A Blues for Buddha is good. That's got one of the most powerful songs that I'm aware of and that I listen to. It's called Razor Blades of Love. I also like their album Dance to the Holy Man. For me, that's their most consistent album. I love every song on that album. So I'm going through a little bit of a Silencers revival. I also am going back to an album that I used to listen to a lot, and then I took like a 10-year break, 10 or 15-year break. But that is Shauna Lang's South. If you're not familiar with Shauna Lang, and especially this album South, if you like new wave music and synth pop music, you need to give it a try. It's really good. A friend of mine recently just had an extra copy, gave it to me, and I hadn't listened to it, like I said, in like 15 years. And I had forgotten how good it is. The most famous song, I think, from the album is Soviet Snow. Just a gorgeous song, really interesting song. But I also really like Drive Baby Drive. I'm Glad I'm Not a Kennedy. That's a really interesting song, and it gets caught in my head. I like it. And several other songs on here. Really, the whole album is enjoyable. So I'm happy to have rediscovered, thanks to my friend, Shauna Lang. The other band that I've gone back to is a band that many of you probably love and are much more into than I have been, and that is Churches. And as you probably know, Churches, the U is spelled as if it were a V, so it's kind of stylized that way. But I had listened to one or two of their albums just once or twice years ago, and there were certain songs that really stood out to me. But I had the album Every Open Eye, and I had it just sitting in my CD collection. I hadn't listened to it in a few years, and I needed something new to listen to. I popped that in to my CD player back in like November, and I just loved every single song on the album, Every Open Eye. They just jumped out at me, grabbed me, and got stuck in my head. I couldn't stop listening. I've come to believe that the Church's album, Every Open Eye, is like a perfect synth pop album. It's got everything that I love about synth pop, and I loved it so much, and I still do, that I went back and revisited their earlier album. I looked at every single other album that they've come out with, including the one recently, I think from a year ago or so, and I don't think those are quite as good as Every Open Eye, but there are so many good songs on all of those albums. And so I've purchased all of them, and I've made a best of for myself, a playlist. And I'm just really into Churches at this time. So if you haven't given Churches a listen, or if it's been a while, I would encourage you to do so. They've really become one of my favorite synth pop bands. All right, so that's what I'm listening to right now. This month, I mentioned Churches. It was back in November. Well, I'm still listening to them. They're just wonderful synth pop music. So I will probably be doing this series every so often, hopefully every month, but just going through what I'm listening to in new wave and synth pop. Thanks for listening, and please come back next time for my next episode of Synth Pop Reviews. I hope you're also checking out the website, synthpopreviews.blogspot.com. There you'll get things like live concert footage of concerts I've attended. You'll get YouTube clips and stuff that I didn't produce, but I'm just embedding them from YouTube, but of bands that I want to spotlight or highlight. You'll also get links not only to the podcast and my YouTube channel, but to my CD collection. In my opinion, this is becoming a great resource. I don't know if anybody's even consulting it or looking at it, but it's my collection of CDs, not MP3s. I've got a huge MP3 collection, but this is just the CDs and the vinyl that I own. It's mostly CDs, so I call it my CD collection. But it's a good resource, I think. If you love synth pop and you're sitting there thinking, what do I buy next? Or what am I missing in my own collection? You can look through what I have there. And gradually I'm putting in more reviews in there, just short little comments and things. And I think it's a good way to find new music or old music to add to your own collection. So I hope you're checking that out. And please help spread the news about my YouTube channel and blog. I'd love to grow our community and help more people to discover this wonderful music. I'd love for them to do that through my podcast, my channel, and my blog. So thank you so much.